They thought he was a nobody, just a guy serving drinks in a high-end restaurant, packed with millionaires and big shots. He stood quietly, his posture calm, his uniform perfectly pressed. But his dark skin and humble job made him invisible to most. To them he was just the waiter, but not everyone ignored him. One man, a powerful billionaire visiting from overseas, sized him up with a smirk. He whispered something in Chinese to his friends at the table, a cruel joke meant to mock the waiter. The group burst into laughter, pointing, their eyes dripping with arrogance. They thought he couldn't understand them. They thought their language kept them safe. What they didn't know was that this man, this quiet black waiter, had spent years studying languages, while working double shifts to support his family. He spoke Chinese fluently, better than many native speakers, and when he opened his mouth to respond, everything changed. The laughter stopped. The billionaire's smirk vanished. The entire restaurant fell silent. This isn't just a story about words, it's about respect, dignity, and what happens when people underestimate others. It's a reminder that kindness is free, and arrogance can cost you everything. Today, you're about to hear the incredible true story of how one sentence turned an entire room upside down. A story that proves knowledge is power and racism has no place in a world more connected than ever. Stick with me, because this moment didn't just shut down a billionaire, it changed the waiter's life forever. It was another hectic Friday night at one of San Francisco's hottest restaurants. The dining room hummed with laughter, clinking glasses, and conversations in a mix of languages. For Marcus, the restaurant's youngest waiter, this was just another shift. At 24, he was known for his warm smile, sharp wit, and knack for staying cool under pressure, even on the wildest nights. He'd hustled hard to land this gig, saving tips to cover night classes, all while chasing a better future for his family. Marcus glided between tables, balancing trays of steaming dishes and brimming glasses, always offering a kind word to every guest. To him, this wasn't just a job, it was his stage. He took pride in making everyone feel at home, no matter who they were or where they came from. But tonight felt off. At a corner table sat a sharply dressed group of men and women, their voices low, their laughter cutting. Among them was a famous Chinese billionaire, a guy whose presence turned heads. His flashy watch gleamed as he gestured, his crew hanging on his every word. Marcus approached with his usual polite smile, but something about their looks made him pause. Their smirks weren't friendly. The laughter, barely muffled, trailed him as he took their order. Marcus adjusted his apron, keeping his cool despite the sting. He'd faced this before, those looks, the whispers. He never let them rattle him. But tonight there was a charge in the air, a sense this shift was going to stand out. What Marcus didn't realize was that in just a few minutes, the laughter from that corner would die, and everyone in the room would see him in a whole new way. The restaurant hummed with the chatter of rich guests and the clink of silverware. But for Marcus, it was just another night on the job. He balanced trays of steaming plates with ease, moving through tables with a quiet confidence earned from years of hard work. To most customers, he was invisible, just a waiter. But at table 9, a group of sharply dressed businessmen in pricey suits took notice. Marcus greeted them politely, his voice calm and professional. "Good evening, gentlemen. Can I take your order?" The men exchanged looks, their smirks barely hidden. One, a tall guy with slicked back hair and a diamond-encrusted watch, leaned back in his chair. "Well, well," he said loudly, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "I didn't know they let guys like him work here." Marcus tensed but flashed a tight smile. "Can I get you started with drinks?" he asked. The group snickered. Another guy sneered. "Sure. But do you even get what we're saying? Or should we sketch it out for you?" Their laughter was harsh, ringing through the restaurant. Marcus felt the sting of their words but didn't flinch. Years of working in upscale restaurants had taught him to swallow insults. Still, something about their tone was different tonight, mocking, demeaning, as if his very presence was a joke. As he carefully jotted down their drink orders, one of them switched languages, speaking rapidly in Mandarin. The others joined in, their laughter now quieter, sharper. They assumed Marcus couldn't understand. "Can you believe this?" one of them whispered in Mandarin. "They let people like him serve us. What a disgrace for a place like this." Marcus's pen paused for half a second. His heart pounded, but his face remained calm. He could understand every word. Years ago, he had lived in Beijing, studying at a prestigious university before life took an unexpected turn. These men thought he was beneath them, but Marcus had more education than most of them combined. The insults continued, each word slicing through the air. A nearby waiter glanced over, sensing tension. Marcus simply smiled, finished writing, and walked away with perfect composure. But inside, his decision was already made. He wasn't going to let this slide. As Marcus approached the bar to place the drink order, he rehearsed his next move in his head. He would serve them flawlessly just as they expected, until the perfect moment came to turn the tables. And when that moment came, it wouldn't just be a response, it would be a lesson they'd never forget. The world around him, blurred as flashing red and blue lights, painted the street in chaos. His chest heaved, hands trembling in the air, but his voice wouldn't come out. The officer's finger hovered dangerously near the trigger, barking orders he could barely process. "Down, get on the ground now!" The words cut through the night like a blade. He dropped to his knees, the pavement cold and unforgiving beneath him. Fear clamped down on his lungs. He wanted to scream, to explain that he'd only been walking home, that he wasn't who they thought he was, but his voice felt trapped. One wrong word, one wrong breath, and this could be his last moment. A crowd was gathering, phones pointed, whispers turning into shouts. "He's not resisting," someone yelled, but it only seemed to tighten the tension. The officer pressed a knee against his back, forcing his face to the concrete. The sharp sting of gravel cut into his skin, his cheek scraping against the ground as humiliation and terror mixed in his chest. "Please," he gasped, voice cracking. "I can't." "Quiet." The sound of a gun being cocked froze time. His vision tunneled. The world narrowed to the metallic click, the heavy breath of the officer, the distant gasps of strangers. His mind raced with flashes of his mother's face, his childhood, dreams he might never live to see. And then, "Stop!" a voice thundered from the crowd. Another officer rushed forward, hand outstretched. For a heartbeat, hope flickered. But was it too late? The tension in the air was razor sharp, the crowd's cries deafening now. In that single second, he realized this moment wasn't just about him. This was a snapshot of something much bigger. Centuries of fear, injustice, and pain boiled down to the press of a trigger. Would the world witness another tragedy tonight? Or would this be the moment everything changed? The restaurant went silent. The billionaire, who just moments ago was laughing loudly at his own cruel joke, now sat frozen, his smug expression wiped clean. The waiter stood tall, his Mandarin flawless and calm, his voice carrying a quiet authority that cut through the air like a blade. "Respect is free," he said. The Chinese investors at the table looked at him with surprise and then admiration. They turned to the billionaire, their faces hardening with disappointment. The laughter died. The billionaire's arrogant smirk faltered. In a single moment, the power shifted, not because the waiter raised his voice or demanded justice, but because he showed that ignorance and hatred could never overshadow dignity. The manager hurried over, embarrassed and apologetic, offering the waiter support. The Chinese investors stood, one of them patting the waiter on the shoulder, thanking him in Mandarin. And then, in a moment no one expected, they announced they were taking their business elsewhere. The billionaire's deal, the one he thought was already won, was dead in seconds, all because of one man's quiet strength. But this wasn't just about a deal or a billionaire's humiliation. It was about every person who's ever been judged by their skin before their character, every worker who's been disrespected because someone thought money made them better. That night, the waiter went home exhausted, but his spirit was unshaken. His story spread through whispers, then online, inspiring thousands. Because in a world where prejudice speaks loudly, dignity speaks louder. Racism thrives when good people stay silent. But one calm voice, one act of courage can change the narrative. So here's the question. The next time you see injustice, will you turn away? Or will you speak up even if your voice shakes? If you've ever faced a moment that changed how you see someone you love, share your story in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more powerful tales that touch the heart. Thank you for being here.